Welcome back to another Spirit Island video. In this video, we're going to be starting a new series, this time looking at changes. This is something that I've covered on the channel in the past, and I only really did it for a couple spirits. I figured I could use this opportunity now that I have a little bit more, well, less time on my hands, but more time to think. Uh, I can use this time to construct a video on how to kind of like the changes to spirits, problems that I see that the spirits have, and kind of how I would fix them. Um, this is going to be a brainstorming. My idea is to basically change every spirit in some way to kind of fit it to what I'm kind of looking for. This is not necessarily making stronger spirits worse or worse spirits better, more make a spirit more interesting to play, in my opinion. So, like, this is going to be different for every person that plays the spirit. Maybe you think the spirit is perfect as is. Maybe you don't. But the purpose of this video is, from my perspective, how I would make a spirit more interesting. And the reason why this video came to be is I was actually working on my new tier list that I hopefully will publish at some point within the next couple of months. And I was just looking at Shadows, and I'm like, yeah, like Shadows sucks to play. But then I had really fun playing that one aspect, and I was like, how could I make Shadows better? And what are the fundamental problems with the spirit? Well, that's why this video started. So we're going to start off with Shadows. So everybody's favorite little spirit here. So Shadows flicker like flame. Now, Shadows is seen as one of the worst spirits in the entire game, and the reason for that is because its growth structure, and it's a 0-1-1, which means it's not placing presence on reclaim, and it's placing a single presence on its other two growth options. One of those growth options gives them a card, and the other growth option gives them energy. Now, these spirits tend to grow the least, and as a result, they have very powerful tracks, as you can see, 6-5, but because you're growing the least, you're never really going to max this out. And as a result, these spirits need to have very powerful jumps across their tracks as they grow. And you kind of see it a little bit with Shadows, but there's definitely still some issues. Now, the Horizon spirits, I'm going to pick out Sunbright Whirlwind because I think Sunbright Whirlwind did this a lot better than Shadows. And honestly, you could argue that it's a little bit too good in how they approached it. Um, but Sunbright Whirlwind, you can see the tracks are just significantly stronger in what they're providing, as well as significantly stronger growth options. So you can see they learned their lesson from Shadows with Sunbright Whirlwind. Now, this video is not about Sunbright, it's about Shadows. So let's get down to it. So some of the problems that Shadows encounters when it plays is it's going to start with 0 energy here. And as a result, so you start with 0 energy and you have 3 1 energy cost cards. And as a result, this plus your special rule forcing you to pay energy with a strict energy economy makes your decision tree very narrow and the choices you have to make few. And as a result, a lot of times it limits your not only your action economy, but it makes your games feel very samey because you're doing the same things over and over and over and over again. Um, so my biggest change is I would change this special rule completely. I think this is a pretty complex special rule, and it's honestly just worse than Reach. So Reach basically changes this special rule, and it just says you get to ignore range once per turn. And the big benefit that Shadows of the Dahan have is it says you get to pay energy, but you get to do it multiple times. Well, most of the time you're never going to want to use this more than once a turn unless you're in the mid game or late game. But in that case, like the game is usually over, so it doesn't matter. So Reach essentially just increases your energy economy by +1. So I really think base shadows should just become reach. So that'd be my first change I would make. The second, because also reach is just easier to use. The second change is I would adjust these tracks. I know when they made aspects, they really didn't want to adjust tracks, but really this should just be 1 energy. Let us start with 1 energy, make this 2, and then just leave the rest as is. Maybe you put elements on the tracks, maybe you don't. But I think starting with the one energy plus getting rid of the energy on your special rule is going to give you a lot more energy economy to make decisions. Now, this is not like the only fix. I'm sure there's other things that need to be done. Like I think this innate also needs to be a little bit reworked. Like it's awkward that the first tier is you're forced to gather the explorer, and then the second action is like, oh, you get to maybe kill them. It just kind of, it's a, for me, it's a flavor fail, right? Like I feel like you either want to maybe gather and then maybe destroy, or force to gather, force to destroy. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure, but I think this Nate also needs to be reworked. I really like the cards though. I think the cards are interesting. I love Mantle of Dread. A very powerful combo or support tool, allowing you to target any spirit with presence, and then that spirit gets to do actions in that presence. It gets to push that town explorer. Excellent for creating pockets. Then you have your nice Dahan movement card, your Dahan protection card, and then you have an ability to downgrade, or I guess the word is replace in this case, before downgrading actually mattered. You generate a lot of fear across your cards. I think it's 8, if I remember, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so it's 8 across your 4 cards, and that actually is on the higher end of the spectrum when you're comparing all of the spirits. I think there's only like maybe 1 or 2 spirits that generate more fear off of their cards. I think it's like Many Minds and maybe Bringer. But yeah, Shadows does generate quite a bit of fear. Um, it's already talked about the changes to base shadows and reach. I would kind of just make this like your standard shadows, and then maybe you adjust the innate, and then see how the spirit performs. Um, the other versions of shadows, so Amorphous is basically a better reach. So reach is an upgrade off of shadows, and then Amorphous is a upgrade over reach. It gives you presence movement in both the fast and slow phase, so it allows you to enable these extra targeting restrictions that you need. And you'll notice that's what reach and Amorphous does. It enables targeting restrictions. Or yeah, so it eases the targeting restriction of your cards here. Same thing with Amorphous. I would just change the tracks and then see how it performs. Okay, so now we have the first one from Jagged Earth that really changes the spirit, and that's Madness. And Madness gets rid of the targeting, and it allows you to add Strife when you place Presence, and then when Presence is destroyed, you gain a fear. This is just a terrible special rule. I think so because whenever you're adding Presence, you're adding Strife. You are, because you're that 0/1/1 spirit, you're placing presence very few, which means you're adding strife very few. Now, you really need this range booster because a lot of your cards are 0 range. So it's kind of awkward where you're like you're placing a presence to add strife, and then you also need to use, like in that land, use your innates, or not your innates, your cards, because they're all 0 range, right? You have 3 cards with 0 range. So it's just like it's a very it's an anti-combo in a way. It's like, oh, you have a explorer town in a land. I got to add a presence there to add that strife. But then it's like, okay, do I really want to use my crops there? No, I'd rather use it in a different land. Do I really want to use Mantle of Dread? Not really. The land's already solved. So it's like, I don't know. It's very awkward. Um, in my opinion, I would just completely rework this. I think this is a dead aspect. Like no matter what, I would still change the tracks, but like this needs like a complete rework. Um, I really don't know how you can do it without, like, maybe what you do is like when you add a strife, or when you add a presence during growth, you get to add a strife to an adjacent land. I think that would probably be a bit better. Like, yeah, but it's like maybe anti-thematic, but like that's the only way I could see this working with your cards, right? Because then you can add it like here, for instance. Let's say Jungle's building, right? So Jungle just built. You can add the presence here. You can add the presence here into D7, strifing the land in D6, and then maybe you have Mantle of Dread played, such that Mantle of Dread can push out the stuff out of D7. So I think that's like what I would do with Madness, and that's just me spitballing off the top of my head. But like right now, how this aspect functions, I think it's just terrible. It has to be better than Base Shadows, because like Base Shadows is just complete garbage, but it's not really good at all. Okay, so now we have like the two decent aspects of shadows. We have Foreboding and Darkfire. Foreboding is another boost off of like your ignore range text. It's a strict upgrade over both of these. And it gives shadows an extra innate, and that innate allows them to, if you have the multiple air, you can ignore range, and then the next tiers get to give you an extra pushing effect as well as generate sphere. This last tier should probably be changed. 4 air is absurd on this spirit because that means you got to get to what is it? 4 card plays, and then you can't function off of 1 energy. So you're really at like 1-4. So at a minimum, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's assuming no reclaims. And there's probably 2 reclaims. So like you're never really getting that. So this 4 air should probably be 3 air, but maybe that's too good. I don't know. But my point is that this is never reached. But a lot of times this generates you an extra action. Now this 2 air does limit your range restriction or your range targeting because you have 3 air. So a lot of times what ends up happening with Foreboding is you play Favors in Crops turn 1, and then the following turn you play these 2 cards turn 2, because this is going to give you your 2 air that allows you to have this effect, and then that allows you to make this at any range, which is pretty nice. Essentially, yeah, infinite range because of the air. Now the one problem with this specific combo is typically Shadows loves to play Mantle of Dread turn 1 because it allows them to pocket towns. So if you don't play Mantle of Dread turn 1, then you're kind of forced to play, was this Corrupt, Wither, and Fade then on turn 2. But then you don't have the 2 air, so then this no longer works. So that's like the big problem. Now you might be saying, oh, play your Favors Call Do turn 2. But here's the issue. You're playing both of these air cards, and this moves Dahan, and this protects Dahan. So it doesn't actually work unless your Dahan are in the right spot. Also, this lacks a fire, which means you don't hit your innate. So because you're playing Foreboding, it ends up locking you into these set of cards. So these 2 turn 1, these 2 turn 2, which isn't the end of the world. But if you're playing Reach or Amorphous, you actually can flip these 2. Flip these 2 in Amorphous because I think Mantle of Dread a lot of times is just better on turn 1 than on turn 2. So that's like a very small thing. Now, of course, this changes if you get card drafts. Maybe you find a good card on turn turn 2. But oh yeah, and that actually is another problem with shadows. So like, here's your presence. Oh, I actually locked these in place. Okay, boom, 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 boom. Okay. That's another issue with shadows. Because your energy, like you need to get to 2 plays so you could play your 2 cards, but then you don't have the energy, so you're forced to pick this energy button turn 1 so you can play your 2 cards. And then on turn 2, a lot of times you're getting a power card, and then you go from top track because you can't really go bottom track off of a 0 energy income unless you draft like a really good 0 or unless there's support. It just doesn't actually happen. So you're always like locked into like this and then this, G3, then G2. And that's something where I think if there was a Shadows redesign, that's something that I would look to change. Of course, I had mentioned like changing this to 1 and then 2 does it goes a long way for the spirit with making your energy economy more diverse. So, and who knows, maybe if that's the case, maybe you're forced to go straight down bottom track, which is something that happens a lot with Whirlwind. But okay, so we talked about Foreboding. So what would I change with Foreboding? I would still change the energy adjustments on the attracts. So yeah, this would be 1, this would be 2, and then I mean I would probably adjust this bottom tier of the innate, and I would possibly adjust the elements on the cards. But I mean I think these are like fine. Another issue that Shadows has is Moonfire is considered the worst elemental combination in the entire major deck. So you don't really have any good synergies with majors. And let's just pull up the majors here and hopefully it's not bugged. No, it's not. The worst major in the game is Grand Hatred, which of course is a Moon Fire card. It also requires 4 Moon, which is hilarious because if you're playing the Moon Fire Spirit, it requires you to have 4 plays to threshold it, which requires you to be here. And I already talked about this earlier, which is 1, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4 turns, plus you got to 5 turns plus your reclaims. So like you're looking at like 7 turns to possibly threshold this card. And like out of all of the spirits in the game, this should be the spirit that can threshold it, but you just can't. So it's like it's so bad. I mean, this is more of a knock on this card than it is on Shadows, but it's just funny. But yeah, so like Grand Hatred, like Moonfire, like if you go through all of the majors, like the Moonfire majors are just complete garbage. Like Transform is also seen as one of the worst cards in the game. This is a Moonfire Air card, another like Shadows card that you can actually have a better chance at thresholding, but it's just bad. So it's like the two worst majors in the game are like your on element cards. So I'm trying to think, are there any good Moonfire cards in the deck? I don't think so. I'm sure someone's going to tell me, oh, you forgot about this card. Oh, I guess Pentup. Yeah. So there is one. There's a Pentup. I'm like, there has to be at least one good card. Yeah, so Pentup Calamity is pretty good, though it doesn't really synergize at all with the Spirit, but that's at least a card. I'm sure there's more. Let me see. I'm just curious. Ooh. There is an Earth of Beast, but it's not really a Moonfire Threshold. Oh yeah, Land Thrashes doesn't really work because it requires a bunch of Earth, but you don't have any. Yeah, I mean, I don't really think. I think really it's only Pent-Up Calamity, right? Which is pretty awkward. I mean, there's some good moon cards like Under a Curse. Well, good is subjective, but Under a Curse is something that you can really make work with that moon threshold. Um, okay, so let's look at the very last aspect here, and that's Darkfire. So Darkfire was the devs' opportunity, or I guess their main goal with this aspect was to make Shadows a B tier spirit. They really wanted Shadows players to feel powerful, and I think they did that. I still rate it on the lower end of spirits, but it's not that much lower. I mean, your economy is just absolutely absurd with Darkfire, and I mean, I guess it is a fix, but it's a fix in the wrong direction. So Darkfire does a couple things. First, it adds a card to your hand. It adds Unquenchable Flame, which is an on-element card. It doesn't really synergize with your kit, but this is more seen as like a support card, right? Because you're able to do damage. It's on-element, and then it also adds Badlands really easily, so you can like combo with damage-based spirits, which is pretty cool. I think that's a direction that I think they can take a lot of future spirits, because there's not many spirits that combo in that way, like giving damage buffs. Like you have Devouring Teeth, right? Where's Devouring Teeth? You have Devouring Teeth that has that damage buff, but outside of that, oh, and I guess Wildfire also has a damage boost, but outside of those two, it doesn't really exist. And the way that Unquenchable Flames is boosting is just giving that Badlands, which is going to be pretty cool. But the other couple things that Darkfire does is it also treats your elements as both. It treats Moon and Fire as both elements. So if you play a Moon Fire card, it can either count as 2 Moon or 2 Fire. Oh, it's nice. It actually modifies this for us. That's actually pretty cool. So it counts as both 2 Moon or 2 Fire. I believe, does it count as all of them? You may treat Moon. I always forget the exact wording. Yes, so I believe that's the case. I might be incorrect. I should probably just read the card. Yeah, it's 2 Moon or 2 Fire, which is pretty cool. Also, this aspect gets an extra free element, which makes hitting these innates pretty easy. Like, it's pretty absurd how much easier this aspect is to hitting this tier 2. It's like, oh, I play, like, as I just mentioned earlier, like a lot of times you want to play Mantle of Dread plus Favors on turn 1, and then you play like these two on turn 2. So it's like you play these two on turn 1, right? And you you have 1, 2, 3, so you're very close to hitting this tier 2. But like if any of these if you ever play 2 Moon Fire together, like boom boom, you automatically hit this tier 2 because you now have Moon, 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 and then they both have the Fire. So it's yeah, you're able to hit this on 2 card plays when typically you're not able to hit that tier 2. On you need 3 card plays to hit it, which means you're sacrificing your energy economy, which Darkfire is just, I mean, it's great in that way. the last thing with the spirit is it also it says whenever your presence would be destroyed, you may push one of those presents instead of destroying it, which makes your presence pretty much immortal to blight. It makes it immortal to like events that destroy it, blight cards that destroy it. So your presence are just very strong, and it also gives you some presence movement. Um, Funny enough, at one point this had read that they also get to generate fear whenever the presence was destroyed. So it was like absurd. What would happen is like you would have like an event or not event, a blight card that would say like, oh, destroy a presence on each board, right? And then you'd put like if you had your 4 boards, what we would do is we'd have your 4 boards here. You would have your 1 presence here. Destroy it on this board, generate a fear, pushes to here. Destroy it on this board, generate a fear. Do it again, do it again, do it again. So it ended up like the blight cards would end up generating you like 4 fear. The presence, destruction, and pushing, I believe it still works like that. You just don't generate the fear, obviously. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a while since I've played this spirit. Maybe they ruled it differently. It's been multiple years since that was ruled that way. But yeah, so yes, you get a ton of tools. You get the extra power card, you get the extra free element. Your elements count as both, and you have presence, immortality. So this is, in my opinion, would I make any changes to this spirit? I mean, I'd probably still adjust the energy economy. That's just me. I really think the energy economy needs to be changed, but I mean, I don't think it really needs it because you have the free element. But I personally think the free element is poor game design. Um, but they're fixing a big problem with the spirit, and the big problem is like this tier never exists at all, like ever. Like even if you play your 4 cards, let's get rid of this. I don't think it's ever gonna work now, right? Because I locked it in. Yeah, it's not gonna. It's locked in like this. Um, like if you play these 4 cards, you still don't hit your max innate because you're lacking the 3rd fire needed, and as a result, you need in because you need 4 moon, it means you need 4 perfect cards that have Moonfire. Like you only have 1 perfect card with Moonfire Air, which means your other cards all need to have Moon, and 2 of them have to have Fire, and 1 of them has to be a Moon Air card. Or yeah, two of them have to be Moonfire, and then the other one has to be a Moon Air. So you're basically forced to draft perfect element cards to get this innate on 4 card plays, but Darkfire allows you to essentially cheat it. Um, so my whole point of this was I think Darkfire is a quick way to fix a big problem with the spirit. Like if you aren't going to address the innate, if you're not going to address the track problems, then this is what fixes it, right? Because now you just have the free element, which means it's like as if you have an extra card play, which means you can kind of be a little bit more greedy with energy track and whatnot. And then also the extra card gives you more flexibility with your drafting and stuff. But yeah, I think Darkfire is probably the closest of the shadows, though I don't really like when aspects. I don't know. I've always felt this way. Like I feel like when I have an aspect, it completely changes how the spirit functions, and I know that's the point of it, but for me it like triggers my OCD where it's like I wish like the spirit was perfect the way it is, and then an aspect can adjust that. But as you'll see throughout the series, is no spirit is perfect. So, and that's where the aspects come and can kind of fix things. So, hopefully you like this video. I just kind of rambled a bunch about shadows and why it is not a good spirit, but also why I don't find it very interesting. But if you like this video, like and subscribe. I'll have a couple other of these videos on my channel. I want to actually go through the first 4 low complexity spirits, and then I'll probably work my way up through the moderates and higher diff stuff. So